Hey guys, Jeff here. Welcome back to my All About Rescue playlist. This segment is a pretty cool segment. It's, I guess, a subscriber, or, well, I hope she's a subscriber. Anyway, a couple in Japan actually watched a couple of my videos on how to start a rescue, how to operate a rescue, and she had contacted me. She had some questions. And I said, you know what? Let's hop on a Zoom and let's have a conversation so we can go through all items or questions or concerns that they had about how to start a rescue. Now, obviously, they're going to be starting a rescue in the States. They're overseas for a little longer. At any rate, when they get back to the States, they're going to be starting their own rescue, and it's going to be a dog rescue. So I said, what the heck? Let's get together. So some of the topics that we talk about in this conversation is obviously it's about dogs and starting a dog rescue, legal disclaimers and forms and things along those lines for when you either get fosters or adopters or people who are surrendering. So we talked a little bit about those forms. Even though they're on my other videos, we did chat about that stuff and reviewed some of that. We talked about the adoption process and we reviewing the adoption process and how you go about screening people and doing background checks and verification and references and all that kind of stuff. We talked about pre-adoption home inspections, like to do home visits to make sure that a home is suitable for a dog that a potential adopter is interested in. We talked about insurance, rescue insurance, insurance for board members, things along those lines. They are different. We also talked about the differences between a nonprofit versus a 501c3. We talked a little bit about trademarks and copywriting as well, or copyright, I should say, or copywriting. I don't know. Anyway, you get the idea. And we also touched on custody issues. If issues arise where maybe a dog that was either adopted or is being fostered, or there's some kind of custody issue, we touched on that as well. So definitely a really cool conversation, and it's really cool that, because especially my rescue playlist, obviously there's a bunch of things in there on dogs up for adoption or whatever, but I did start doing the rescue part of it to try and help people establish and form new nonprofit rescues. So this was really cool that they reached out to me, and it's just it's one of those things. I try to offer content to help people with dog training and dog care, but with the rescue stuff, like something like this, honestly, it was just amazing that they reached out, and I was happy to do it because we need more good rescues, especially now in the middle of 2022. The rescue community is struggling. They are jam-packed, overwhelmed. So anyway, those are some of the topics. We talked about other things as well, but those are some of the bullets that I wanted to point out, and I'll list them in a minute, and take a look at the video. And again, if you like what you see on my channel, consider subscribing. Give me a thumbs up for this video, and as always, if there's any questions or content that you'd like to see me put up here on my channel, please let me know. I'm here to serve you guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. So you guys, where in Japan are you?
We're at Yokota Air Base in the Yafusa Prefecture by
Okay.
Tokyo. In
Okay.
Tokyo. Yeah.
I figured you were in the service because you had a South Carolina number too.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for
Yeah,
your service.
thank you. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were stationed at a Joint Base Charleston in South Carolina. So yeah,
Okay.
there, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. So I know you watched the How to Operate a Rescue. Did you watch How to Start a Rescue too?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I've actually been watching like a lot of videos, so it's
Good.
kind of
Good.
like getting a lot of information, but also kind of like information overload.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So yeah, we're like in the extremely early stages of doing this. I mean, we still have another year and a half here. So we're just kind of like trying to gather all our information to make sure that once we get back to the States, we can hit the ground running, have all our ducks lined up. So
Okay, so that was going to be my first question, was where are you, like geographically, where would you started? I wasn't sure if you were going to start one in Japan or in the States. So,
we're going to start in the States.
okay, all right.
Yeah, so right now we're kind of focusing on like the business plan and establishing a budget, getting to know the legalities of everything.
Okay.
And then yeah, once we get back to the States, that's where we'd actually start.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, obviously, this is kind of open format. whatever questions you have, I will certainly answer. If I don't know, I'm just going to say I don't know. I don't really talk out my butt because that doesn't do anybody any good, right?
Yeah, sure. And I appreciate that because, and especially with every state having different laws, it's not going to be like a blanket rule for everywhere. So I
Well,
totally get
founding the nonprofit is because that's federal.
it.
As far as operating locally, then you get into the nuances of state and local laws surrounding, whether you're operating a foster-based network or you're going to have like a facility. So like here in North Carolina, we founded in New Jersey, but I moved down to North Carolina almost 8 years ago. So as soon as I moved down, I had to file with the Secretary of State. And it was pretty easy. I just had to file paperwork, say, hey, we moved, we're going to have some fosters down here, that kind of stuff, just so we were legally able to operate. So, from that standpoint, like the state and local laws may vary, but like we don't have a facility. I'm not a shelter. So if someone was going to have, a shelter or like some kind of facility type thing on their property, they actually have to register as a shelter or kennel, depending on the state you live in. And there's just other things that have to go on. So, yeah, but well, let's, we'll start simple. If you have questions or whatever, we can start there and just kind of see where it takes us.
Okay, sure. And just putting it out there too, that's kind of what we're leaning towards as well, having it foster based. We're not looking to start a facility because our intent is to get dogs acclimated to living in a home environment. So we want them in our house, not in kennels in a facility somewhere.
Okay, good, excellent. And it's the easiest way to do it too. So, yeah, for sure. The foster base is the easiest. And I think all of us, like when we start doing this, like we want to save them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually worked for a while at a shelter, and we were stationed in Guam
Okay.
for a while. And at one point, I had 4 dogs. I got most of them there at the shelter, and I know the feeling of, man, I want to save them all, But the harsh reality is that unfortunately we can't, So
Right.
we just have to do what we can. So
Yeah, and that's it. You start with one. That's
right.
it. My wife and I, we were in rescue. We started getting involved in shelter work in like 2002. And in 2010, we founded Pity Rescue. And, we were involved in rescue, primarily pit bull rescue, prior to us founding and forming our nonprofit. The first animal we brought in was a guinea pig. So technically the first animal of Pity Rescue was a guinea pig because our whole thing was we don't want to discriminate.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's a funny story that we wanted to do all this pit bull, perpetuate the pit bull stuff, and we took in a guinea pig. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And we're kind of the same way because we kind of want to start a mini pin rescue, but we don't want to have closed doors. Not every shelter is going to have a mini pin, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to help. So we definitely want to keep it open.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So we know it's dogs, so that's good. So are I guess you're gonna wait till, are you moving back to South Carolina, or you're not sure where you're gonna be stationed, or?
We're likely going to go back to Texas.
Texas. Okay.
Yeah, I'm retired. Brian is going to be retiring soon. So this is our last duty base.
Congratulations.
So, I thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So once we get to Texas, that's it. We're done.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So first, you could technically found your nonprofit right now. You know that, right? I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying you can. And then from the time you found your nonprofit, I think you have 17 months to file your 501c3 paperwork. Do you know the difference between a regular nonprofit and a 501c3?
I think I got some of that information from one of your videos.
Oh, I did cover it. Okay.
Yeah, but please correct me if I'm wrong. And it's to where 501c3 is donations are now tax deductible.
It's really all it is. It's a tax thing, right? I could tell you. And so when you're a nonprofit, you can receive donations. It's just your donors and your supporters can't write it off, right? Whereas when you're 501c3, all the donations, they can write it off. And there's other little nuances of tax wise, but that's the primary thing, because then you can solicit from corporate sponsors and stuff, because corporations, they want that write off. So and then little things like there's some organizations like through Facebook, for instance, where they will do like sometimes matches, or you could solicit donations through Facebook, but you have to be a 501c3. They won't allow regular nonprofits to take advantage of those benefits. Like my birthday's coming up, so I'll launch a Facebook fundraiser. Hey, we're just doing our annual birthday fundraiser. Facebook technically takes the money and gives it to us, right? Kind of like, you ever go to the supermarket and they say, oh, you want to donate $1 to children's cancer?
Yeah.
Right. You're donating $1, but that supermarket is actually getting the benefit. So that's why Facebook does it, I suspect. But you do, like, that's an instance where being 501c3 would be beneficial, because you could just literally do things like that. And then other online fundraisers. So yeah, that's the primary difference. If you know any lawyers, I know people who have done the 501c3 paperwork themselves. I was fortunate when I was up in Jersey. I had a friend of mine who had a friend who was a lawyer, and they did everything for us. So we didn't actually have to file the paperwork.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we're probably going to be looking into too, getting a lawyer to do all that for us, because this is something we never done before. Don't want to screw it up.
Right.
So just want to make sure we're off to a good start.
Yeah. And then that's
legal issues as well.
Yeah. And that's, when you do your 501c3 paperwork, it's either right or wrong generally, right? I've gone through it superficially just to see what it was about. Like, if you do it wrong, they reject it, and you just got to do it again, right? But yeah, if you know anyone who's a lawyer, that's helpful. You could also solicit and say, hey, would you be willing to help us found our nonprofit? Your services would be tax deductible, because if, let's say, a law firm donates their services, let's say you found your nonprofit, for instance, use LegalZoom or something, right? Mm-hmm. You found your nonprofit on September 1st, and the lawyer starts doing your 501c3 stuff on October 1st, but you don't actually get your 501c3 certification until the following year. Your lawyer can still retroactively claim that as a write-off.
Oh, okay.
As well as your donors. So while you're a nonprofit, you could still solicit donations. So again, if you founded on September 1st and you started getting donations September 15th, those people can't write it off yet until you're 501c3. But once you're 501c3, they can retroactively write it off.
Okay. Yeah. And can any kind of lawyer do this for us, or does it have to be like a special,
it's just someone helping you out, just to sort through the legal jargon. I was about to do it myself, but then that happened. I'm like, oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
please do.
Yeah,
and at the time, I had a holistic shop. I was doing my dog training. I was doing the rescue and shelter work, and then we were forming our nonprofit. I'm like, I don't think I have time for this.
Yeah.
So I was very, very lucky and very grateful too. So, yeah, but yeah, any lawyer can do it. Anybody can do it if they know how. If you know someone who's gone through it before, you could do that too. It's all, you just go to IRS's website and stuff like that. And again, LegalZoom, I don't know where they're at now, because I haven't done any founding or formation of any LLCs or anything in a while on LegalZoom. They may have another service now too. Again, if it costs money, if you have the money, you could certainly pay someone to do it. You could also solicit donations to support that endeavor. Let's say a lawyer is going to charge $500. You could do like an online fundraiser or some kind of tricky tray or something, and you can raise the funds that way. And all you have to do is tell people, we're forming our nonprofit, so your donations currently are not tax deductible, but once we get our 501c3 status, you can write it off as a donation.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, we did create a list of questions to ask you, and too many, we can call it quits at any time you want.
It's late for you guys. I'm up. I'm ready to go. It's early in my day. So you're in Japan, so you're 10 hours, right? 11 hours?
Yeah, it's 10 p.m. right now, 12 p.m.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, but it's all right. You're the first person that we've talked to about this.
Okay.
So we just really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Not a problem at all. No. So good. Fire away.
Okay. So you mentioned that, so as we said previously, we want to keep this foster based, right? And you said that that's how you have it too.
Hmm.
So, do you have like a foster contract in place, like with your within your network?
Yeah, so I have I can email you too where it is on my website, but I have a volunteer application. I
Mhm.
also have volunteer rules. Especially because I'm a pit bull guy, and I can't stand dog parks. But for instance, one of the things for my volunteers, especially when we were up in New Jersey, because we had a lot of volunteers taking care of dogs and stuff. So one of my rules was no dog parks. Right.
Mhm.
So I have a list of, I have a volunteer application, volunteer rules. I have a foster application. I have a foster to adopt application and an adoption application and an adoption contract.
Okay,
So
yeah,
those are the
and
forms.
I did go to your website.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm more than happy to go over there and take a look at those. And this that
Yeah, and
would
I
be,
think they're all PDFs, so you could literally, I mean, you could download them,
yeah.
copy and paste it, put your stuff in there. I don't care. No matter to
Okay.
me. Yeah, it's yeah, but yeah, and then uh, I, I I had to do it once or twice over the years when I did like meet and greets, where I
Mhm.
actually had to have potential adopters fill out a liability waiver because
Mhm.
I had a dog or two that was friendly but not was very apprehensive and fearful of strangers. So I had to disclose that information, make them sign it just so they don't sue us, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So those were like one-off things, but I don't think that's on my website, but it's something with a min pin. I mean, they ain't mauling anybody, but
But to get into Japan, we had to get a waiver to get our mini pin brought in because here in Japan they're considered an aggressive breed.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, because they're
yeah,
a pincher.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yeah.
So that leads me kind of into the next question is how, and this probably varies from state to state, but how are the contracts legally binding? Do they have to be signed like in front of a notary or just the act of them signing them is legally binding?
So that's probably more of a legal question. It was my understanding that as long as we have a contract signed by both parties, it is legally binding. And today, 2022, and again, I don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% sure. So this is where like legalanswers.com is a really good place. That's a good resource I tap into sometimes if I just want to pay like $14 for a quick answer.
Mhm.
But in today's day and age, there's new laws with electronic signing of documents, even through email, makes it legally binding. Whereas 20 years ago, it might have been different. But yeah, I don't believe you need a notary to have a contract binding.
Mhm.
Again, it's more of a legal answer for a lawyer, but I've never done that. What I've done in cases, especially where if I had a dog that had some issues that I needed to fully disclose, I would make sure that it was all filled out, fully disclosed in my contract. And I also would take video with the person's permission of the meet and greet.
Mhm.
And during the meet and greet, I would make sure I verbally disclose that and they're acknowledging it on video as well. So
Okay.
those were some of the things I did just to kind of cross my T's and dot my I's. Again,
Yeah.
those issues were few and far between because most of the dogs I've placed, thank God, were, relatively friendly with just basic like obedience issues.
Mhm.
But yeah, so as long as you're getting permission from the person to record, hey, do you mind if I record this so we could just fully disclose everything, and film the meet and greet, and that's it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And kind of like a part two to that question is, and again, this is a legal thing, so, but just throwing it out there is, how would we be able to enforce that? So for example, a contract for surrenders. Somebody's bringing a dog that they decided for whatever reason they don't want to keep it anymore. And then the following day, they're like, we changed our minds, and we're like, well, you can't have the dog back. So now it becomes some kind of legal issue, but you surrendered your dog, you signed the contract, and, or for another example, like a foster took one of the dogs And while they in their custody, they say, well, I gave the dog to my cousin because my cousin wants a dog, and I thought it was a good fit. Well, they didn't go through the application process. So how would we be able to enforce that? Is that more of like a civil matter?
Not well, I mean, technically, yeah, but that's where your foster contract comes into play, because you'll have in your foster contract that the dog remains the property of XYZ Rescue Inc. Right, and this is where property law, and in Texas, I'm pretty sure it's the same as North Carolina and even New Jersey. As much as I hate this, it helps and is beneficial to us because dogs are considered personal property.
Yeah.
And when I do owner surrenders, they actually have to pay a surrender fee. So there's actually a transaction associated with the contract of them surrendering ownership to you. And when in doubt, and this is through a lot of experience over the years too, possession is 9/10 of the law. So if especially if it's a dog that is in kind of a crappy situation, you play nice, and get that dog in your control. Right now, if it's a foster that has possession of the dog, obviously you stating that it's your dog, they're fostering, all that kind of stuff helps you. And I have in there that in my contract that we can for lack of a better word, reclaim the dog at any time for any reason. Right? So and they have to make themselves readily available for meet and greets and stuff. So if the crap hits the fan, you could actually just go there, maybe call the local cops and be like, show this is our contract. We were getting our dog back. And that's that. Now, if they place the dog somewhere else, that also should be in your contract too, that the dog will reside at, 123 Main Street, because your insurance needs to know where your fosters are too, right? And depending on your insurance company, they may require a list of addresses that they're insuring. So that's another part of it that protects you. So you could go get the dog. When in doubt, my philosophy is play nice, get the dog. However, right? Say, oh, well, we have a really good home. Can we just bring the dog on a meet and greet, and then just get the damn dog? Get the damn dog and tell them thanks.
Right. Okay. All right. So I guess the next question is, when you go through the adoption process, and I don't think I got around to watching that video quite just yet, but do you do any kind of a background check or just references? And if so, who performs the background check and how extensive is it?
So people think it's crazy and it's like really hard, and you'll hear people say it's easier to adopt a child than it is a dog. It's really not. And I've done a lot of it myself, especially since we moved down here, because we don't have the support that we had more in New Jersey. But volunteers, you can certainly have an adoption coordinator that facilitates all the paperwork type of stuff, as far as a potential adopter or potential foster filling out the paperwork. I do the same thing for fosters as if they're adopters. Obviously, we need their name, address. We need to know if they're gainfully employed, if they're able to take care of the dog. If it's an adopter, obviously financially, physically, which it's not a physical discrimination thing, but I'm not going to adopt out a 1.5-year-old pit bull puppy to an 85-year-old person. Right. First and foremost, I'm going to be 50. I'm lucky I'm still keeping up with my dogs, right? On top of the fact that, God willing, these 85-year-old people live till they're 100. Chances are the dog's going to outlive them. So that's something else I take into consideration. But I gather that through the adoption review, which name, address, are they fully employed? You could probably ask for employer stuff too, just to validate that they actually work there. I ask for 3 personal references. We call each reference and have individual conversations with them regarding their relationship with the person, what their feelings are as far as the person being a good caregiver for, Fido or whatever the dog's name is. Veterinary references, mostly because we want to make sure if they do list pets, and let's say they list 3 pets and they all died of old age, we want to just make sure that those dogs receive adequate vet care over the course of their lives. That's something where I'm a little different than other rescues because I'm also very holistic. I don't believe in annual vaccines. I'm very open when it comes to traditional flea and tick products, for instance. So if someone wasn't giving their dog vaccines every year, I'm not going to hold that against them because I don't believe in it, right? Now, if they've never given their dog vaccines, yeah, that's a little bit of a red flag. Are they giving the dog rabies, and are they registering their dog if their municipality requires annual registration of their animals? So those are some things that will come up in conversation. I also, in my contract, I do pre-adoption home visits to go to their home to make sure that I feel it's suitable for the dog I'm placing. And not necessarily in a bad way, but let's say you have a dog with special needs and these people live in a 3-story building.
Right.
Are they going to be lugging this dog up and down 3 flights of stairs? Or if it's a larger animal, can the dog walk up and down the stairs? So that's just another example of something you might want to ask or you might notice during a home inspection. And I also have in my contract that they are agreeing to pre-adoption and post-adoption home checks. So, I mean, most of the people I've adopted to, I've kind of stayed in contact with at least for the first year or two after adoption. And I would see them often generally because I always tried to adopt within a 2-hour drive of me, especially because I'm a trainer too. So if they had problems, I would want to make sure I can go out and help them. Yeah. So home visits are important. So 3 personal references. You could do more personal references if you want. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So for our rescue, it's going to be a nonprofit. However, we want to sell merchandise, right, to support the rescue. So to purchase equipment that's going to help us make this merchandise, would that be something that we could be claiming?
It's an expense.
Okay.
It's a business expense. You are running a business, right? And so, yeah, so whatever, I mean, I've had to buy leashes and collars and food and bowls and beds and crates and cages and fencing when I was up in Jersey. Again, we had a holistic pet shop. We specialized in nutrition, but I fostered some of the dogs there. I had to build a fence in the yard, so they had a little yard. And that was all, and it was all transparent. We needed money for it. I did a fundraiser, told everybody exactly what the fundraiser was for. As long as the funds are going towards your rescue and specific to, let's say you have a specific fundraising endeavor, the money needs to go to what you're fundraising for.
So what if it's seemingly unrelated to the rescue? For example, I'm gonna sell bracelets, like custom bracelets with little charms on them, and I'm making them, and I'm buying the beads, and I'm buying the tools and stuff, and the fund is going either towards the rescue or towards restocking the items that I need to continue making these bracelets. So that is considered a legitimate expense.
Yeah, if the bracelets are for the sole purpose of raising funds for the rescue, yes.
Okay.
Just like printer ink. A printer. You need to print out your adoption contracts. I mean, today it's a little different because I'm dating myself.
Don't worry.
But yeah, but I still give handouts when we do adoptions. I have, little how-tos, tips on decompression, tips on having the dog, and those are all printing. So buying a printer, if you need a laptop. When I was up, not so much now, everything kind of is smushed together, but I literally had 2 laptops because I had my pet store and I had my rescue. I did not want anything together, primarily for organizational reasons, but also just for legal reasons. If there was any issues, I wanted them to be completely separate. So I had a laptop for my profit business and I had a laptop separate for Pity Rescue. So again, as long as this stuff is going, like if you're making beads in the name of the rescue and you're buying a BMW, that's,
Yeah.
not kosher, right? People do it. I hate it. People manipulate the process, and it's not cool. But the same thing holds true is if you at some point were going to be an employee of the nonprofit. If you were going to do it full time and you were going to take a paycheck, for instance, it's just like running a business. You just
and that was actually another question of mine as well. Was and here, let me pull it up real quick. I have my notes here on this side. Let's see. So so ours would be like a family rescue, right? Myself, my husband, my daughter who's older, and our son, he's also older, 20 and 21. So they all want to play a role, right? And at what point would we, and this is a very broad question, but at what point would we be able to like pay them a salary? They're not working, they're at home, they're helping care for the dogs, they're making merchandise, running social media accounts and websites, so
yeah.
they are deserving of something. But at what point would we know, like, okay, this is legitimate, and we can give you a salary?
Yeah, it's a business, right? So if you have employees, I've never done payroll in my rescue. I've always used volunteers, and I kind of have control issues, so I did a lot of stuff myself. Yeah, it's a business. So you can certainly have payroll when you could probably have payroll from day one, but if you have one dog and 5 employees,
Yeah.
right?
Of course, there's that,
So that's more of that's an IRS thing as opposed to a legal. A legal thing it is, but like if you're bringing in $100,000 in donations every year, and your payroll is $75,000 spread across 3 people, say, and you have 2 dogs in your rescue, that's a little odd, right? But as you grow, yes, you certainly, this is where an accountant could probably answer it a little better. But just like another business, you could technically have payroll, but I think you could also 1099 contractors who support the rescue's endeavors. So if your children, for instance, one's doing social media management and the other one's doing local fundraising, and their employees doing that, then here's the bottom line: is your expenses everything has to be obviously filed in your taxes, and what a Form 990 is.
I think I saw something about that in the other video. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. So the Form 990, that's where anybody from the public can go to the IRS's website and see where your money's going, right? Yeah. So most people will just give people their EIN, their employer identification number, right? Incidentally, nonprofits have EINs, employer identification numbers, for instance, like payroll, right? But most rescues will give their donors or potential supporters their EIN so that people can go to the IRS's website. I put my 990s right on Pity Rescue's website.
Yeah,
it's there.
Yeah, and see, that's kind of like a fear of mine. I understand that we have to allow the rescue to grow, so that we can hopefully one day get to a point where we can give a salary. But then I don't know if we're able to claim, 100% of your revenue goes toward the rescue. Is that accurate when you're paying a salary? But the salary is for people that are going to help run this rescue, because without their help, we wouldn't be able to do it. So is that a legitimate claim?
You mean from a public relations standpoint?
Yeah. So for example, if somebody was reviewing our what did you say, 1099?
990.
Yeah. If someone is reviewing a 990 and they said, well, wait a minute, this person said that 100% of revenue or donations is going toward the rescue, but I see here that they're paying 2 people a salary. So would that be?
Well, technically, if you're paying 2 people from the rescue, right, but they're doing landscaping on the side and that's what you're paying them for, then it's not going to the rescue. If you're paying 2 people to work and care for dogs and manage different aspects of the company, then yes, technically it is. And again, you could, you would say all of 100% of donations goes towards the rescue, and this is the breakdown, right? Or they could just go to your 990 and see the breakdown, because they're going to see supplies, veterinary expenses, salary, etc. So they're going to see that utilities. It's just like anything else, right? But yeah, so you could also say that, let's say you have a specific fundraiser, right? So you have your operating expenses, you're running your rescue, business as usual, you have a couple of employees, but you have this, let's say you rescue this special needs dog that needs $12,000 in surgery, right? You could have a fundraiser and you could say, look, 100% of donations from this fundraiser is going directly to that dog.
Yeah.
Right. So because, most people don't understand, especially with ASPCA, the Humane Society, PETA, all these big conglomerates. I mean, not much money goes actually to the direct care of animals. When you're starting small, you have no choice. Unless you're soliciting big conglomerates and you're bringing in $50,000, $100,000 donations from big ticket, from corporate or whatever, most of your donations are going to be $10, $25. Maybe you have a monthly donor who does $5 a month type of thing. That's really where your initial donations are going to be. But the rule of thumb is just be transparent. Right. And you could even, maybe you don't want to have a dollar amount associated, but let's say you have a little breakdown on your website of where money goes separate from your 990, just especially when you're starting out. Say, initially, 90% of our money is going to go towards the care of the animals. 10% of donations is going to go towards social media and local endeavors. Actually, let's say 80%. Let's say you hire an accountant. I pay an accountant to do my taxes. It's $375 I pay, only because I can't find anyone to do it for free. And that's something I don't want to screw up as my annual tax filing. So I actually pay. Like when I do my birthday fundraiser on Facebook, I'll probably note in there that, a chunk of this is going to go towards the money I owe my accountant for Pity Rescue's taxes from 2021. Right. So, when you have a specific fundraiser, you can say, look, we're doing this specifically, for Bella. Bella needs 2 knee surgeries and it's going to cost $12,000. Every penny from this fundraiser is going towards Bella's veterinary care. Right. So you could do something like that. But as far as general operating expense, just be transparent. As long as the money you're taking in is going to the rescue's endeavors and legitimate business, running the business is the main thing, because they're going at some point they're going to see, if Brian and Brenda say, oh, all the money goes to the rescue, and then they go on your form 990 and it's not adding up, obviously it's going to hurt your public perception, but it's also going to be against the law. So, but yeah, just think it's a business. You have operating expenses. So,
but you didn't form an LLC or anything like that, right? You're still just
no. You're forming an NP, a nonprofit.
Okay.
So you cannot profit from the organization. You can work for the organization, right? I mean, I know a lot of rescues. They have trainers on staff. They do. I'm a contractor for some trainers, because they'll send dogs to me for training, which is separate from my personal rescue. So I'll train rescue dogs every month, and so I'll technically be a contractor for them, in which I get it depending on the dollar amount, they would send me a 1099 for what they paid me. If they sent a couple of dogs to me and it exceeded the threshold, they would send me a 1099 or W-2, one of them.
1099.
Yep. Yeah. So so that would be, but that's their expense of hiring a trainer, right? So whether you hire a trainer or you're hiring your kid to do something is the same thing. But as long as you just can't profit personally from it. You could be an employee, but I mean, did you know the NFL was a nonprofit for a long time?
Really?
Yeah. I don't think they are anymore, but the NFL was a nonprofit forever. Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Think the ASPCA, PETA, they're nonprofit. I mean, their officers are taking in $1 million a year. They don't do shit. Pardon my language. I mean, what, are you kidding me? But they're employees. So yeah, it's just, yeah, you're a nonprofit, not an LLC. And then with the nonprofit, obviously you have business insurance like you regularly would, but you also need, well, you don't need to have, there's no law against it. I do. We also have shareholder insurance, not shareholder, I'm sorry, board member insurance for people on the board. Because the people who are on the board, and in the States, I think it's 3 people. I did some research yesterday. In Japan, you need to have 10 people to form your nonprofit.
Really?
Yeah, so in the States, you need to have odd numbers, basically. So I guess for voting or whatever. So yeah, having
Okay.
insurance for your board members so they are not at risk, and liability wise personally. So it's a little different from an LLC in the liability aspect of it. You should have insurance. If, let's say you adopt a dog out and they bite someone, even a min pin, and the people need surgery, you don't want them suing you. I mean, they could sue you, but the insurance is going to protect you.
Mhm.
So you have insurance to run the business and insurance to protect your board members.
Okay.
Okay. That's my question. So yeah.
Okay. Let me go back to the questions here. There we go. All right. So again, like I was saying earlier, it's kind of like information overload, right? And we're just getting information from all these different places.
Mhm.
So nonprofit registration, 501c3, EIN, trademark, and logo. Are all of those different things, or will one get you another? For example, the 501c3 gets you an EIN.
No, so forming your nonprofit is you're establishing a company. Let's say you use LegalZoom. So when you form your nonprofit, you're going to form your nonprofit, and they'll give you an option. Do you want to register for an EIN as well? Which you would click that, and whatever it is, $50 extra during the application process or whatever. And then your 501c3 is separate from that. Now, trademark and copyright is also separate. And I've had trademarks and copyrights and patents over the years for separate things, but they're all separate. So I don't, as far as a corporation owning a trademark or a patent, I don't know if you would want to do that anyway, because if for whatever reason down the road you want to swap out board members and then there's some legal issues of a board member on the way out that was involved in the trademark or copyright of something, and then there's a legal battle. I don't know how that would work from a nonprofit standpoint, having trademarks and copyrights. I could tell you logos, yeah, that's something that would be static, right? If you're going to create your logo, and then you're going to make sure that you copyright or trademark the logo. So copyright, depending on the level of the copyright, you can have it so you can use it anytime you want, and then if it's a unique trademark, for instance, then it would be unique to your organization, like a logo.
Okay.
But they are all separate.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, because I just don't know. Like, there's just
and
so
it's
much
like I said, when you form your nonprofit, getting an EIN. I have an EIN. I've never issued payroll, but I have an EIN, right? So it's one of the things that you go through. So
EIN is required to issue payroll?
Yes.
It is. Okay. Oh, well, yeah, because you do that when you file your taxes.
Employer.
It has to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Random question, and again, it probably varies from state to state, but are you legally authorized to go out on site and retrieve or catch a dog? Like, say somebody calls you up and they're like, there's a loose dog running around at the gas station, and you're like, I'll be right there,
Yeah, there's no laws against being a good Samaritan. And I tell people I am not animal control. It doesn't matter. I got a call the other day for a dog stuck in a pond down here in Norfolk. Now by the time I got back to them, they were able to retrieve the dog, but I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go in a pond with a bunch of alligators. No thanks.
Yeah, in North Carolina.
I love dogs, but all kidding aside, though, yeah, if you wanted to go help, there's no laws against that, right?
Okay.
You cannot pretend to be animal control, but you can certainly go help people try to catch a dog. Especially, you probably hear stories of feral dogs or stray dogs, and rescues, or even just, regular Good Samaritans setting up dog traps to try and trap the dog, right? Because they can't get close enough. So yeah, all that stuff is, and it's part of doing the right thing. Like when they called me the other day, I was in a private training session with a client. Otherwise I would have went and helped them. But as soon as I got out, I called them back and they had already gotten the dog. But yeah, no, yeah, definitely. Now I could tell you this, just separate from the legal issue, if let's say you happen to do something like that and you're uneasy about the dog, definitely call animal control. I mean, and I don't know if you guys are skilled handlers, or if, I have some equipment just from being a dog trainer, and because when I was up in Jersey and working with shelters, I actually had snare poles, and I was actually certified as a New Jersey State Animal Control Officer. So I never did it for a living. It's just one of the things I wanted to kind of do. So I had I still have certain equipment that most rescues don't have, but I always tell people, if you're not safe, you can't continue your rescue efforts, right? If you get injured, so always keep that in mind if you're going on site to help somebody.
Yeah. And when I worked at the shelter, I did have some experience, working with the catch poles and the crates. So I didn't know if it would be a good idea to kind of just have them handy just in case, like catch pole and some cages in case we have to set out a trap or something. And
yeah, so I mean, so you're moving back to Texas. Are there a lot of places like Tractor Supplies down there?
Yeah, there are.
You could always run to the store and pick up a trap. When you start getting involved in rescue, you're going to get local contacts. Somebody's going to have a trap. You could buy one and have it on hand. It's going to sit there. The amount of times you'll actually need a trap, especially early on, because early on you might take in a couple of owner surrenders. You might go to your local shelter and pull a dog from the shelter to save them from euthanasia or something. That's going to be the bulk of your intakes, right? Aside from the fact is, if you're going to catch a stray or feral animal, if you don't have a quarantine area, how are you going to safely take that animal in without risk to the other animals in your care?
Yeah.
Right. So, you could certainly, I'm not saying you can't have a trap. I would say if the need arose, you probably could reach out to local contacts, like, hey, anybody got a trap for a 50-pound dog, right? And they're trappers too now. That's another big thing going on, where there's actually professional trappers. They're just people who own traps, I think, but personally. But anyway, I don't. Snares and stuff like that, you could certainly have it at your disposal. But early on, you're probably going to take dogs that you're easy to handle anyway.
Yeah.
Just until you get your feet wet.
So earlier we talked a little bit about surrenders and how there's like a surrender contract and a surrender fee. What do you think about having like a surrender box, like somebody wants to come by in the middle of the night and dumps their dog, because at the shelter that I used to work at, there was a box in the front of the building, and in the morning we would show up and it'd be full of puppies, or they'd have a dog in there. So I know that's not the preferred surrender method, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Now, if you were a facility and you had the capacity and function to safely set something like that up, I guess I could see how something like that would be beneficial. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've had dogs tied up at the shelter in the morning. I'd go there in the morning to open up, and I mean, there's dog tied, a dog in a cage, dog just running loose inside the fence, which told me they actually had to throw the dog over the fence, like crazy shit, right? I don't think you should get involved in that kind of stuff. That is why we have animal control, number one. Number two, you're never going, or I shouldn't say never, you should never disclose your foster's home addresses, right? You're a foster-based network. You don't want to disclose your private address. Now, they could dig enough and go to IRS, but someone who's looking to dump a dog isn't going to stop and research the IRS's website to find out where you live, right? It's not going to happen. So yes, I would avoid that unless you had a facility at some point where, because remember, somebody surrendering a dog overnight, for all intents and purposes, it's the same as a feral or stray dog. You still need a quarantine area. You don't want to put your other animals at risk for a dog you know nothing about. If the people are dumping the dog, you can't believe anything they say about the care of that dog.
Yeah. Okay.
So now if they're surrendering and they have papers and stuff to back it up, then you have vet records, their rabies certificate, all that kind of stuff. It's a little different than someone who you don't know, didn't see, dump a dog somewhere. So I would personally avoid that. So.
Okay. All right. So I assume you probably network with other rescues. And other than social media, is there some kind of like secret, location where rescues go and get in touch with one another?
Yeah, so it's really, especially nowadays, it's more of a relationship building thing. There's some shitty rescues out there right now, like real crappy rescues.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a two-part question, because it's like, how do you affiliate with reputable rescues? You want to start strong, you don't want to get involved in some shady business.
Yeah, you do you. Right. I've been friends with rescues who hate each other, but I've always maintained good relationships with everyone because your personal stuff doesn't matter to me. The dogs do.
Right.
And I've always said that, and it's 20 years now. I've always maintained that. I've had people, how could you possibly be friends with her? Did you hear what she did? Well, yeah, but if a dog needs help, I don't care what she did. So I'm going to maintain that relationship. There are people that have distanced themselves from me because I don't take people's shit either. Like, I don't care who you are. I run my rescue. I am who I am. And if you don't like what I have to say, I can't help you with that. I can't make you realize that what you're doing is not appropriate for the dogs, right? From a relationship and business transactional standpoint, you're going to find out who's reputable in your area. Obviously word of mouth, regardless of Yelp and all these Google reviews and all that crap. Personal experience still, in my opinion, is the best resource to identify who's reputable and who isn't, right? And as you grow in your community, you're going to be that person, right? If you're taking a dog from another rescue to help them out, right, that's a positive reflection on you, regardless of what that rescue's reputation might be. That's my opinion anyway, right? If I'm doing right by the dogs and I'm fully transparent to everyone who supports us, I feel 100% confident that we're going to be okay. Because today, all it takes is someone to accuse you of something, right? Yeah. It's all it takes, and we have no control over that. What we do have a control over is how we care for the animals, how we place the animals responsibly, right? And how we could be of service to the community. All we have control over. We don't have control over what other people do or say, right? And I've had my fair share of social media stuff over the years where I actually had to defend myself for things that I was, maybe trying to help a dog out or something. And people will, you always get two sides. So, yeah. I guess I'm a little thick-skinned in that regard but it took time to thicken my skin.
Yeah, no, and that's the perfect segue into the next question, especially since you said, not giving a shit about what people think. I realize that in this day, social media is just about everything, and for two people who are introverted recluses, that's definitely going to require a big character adjustment on our parts. We want to be able to put content out, but I don't want to hear shit. If it is about the dogs, you know, it's not about your opinion, it's not about politics, it's not about religion, it's about the dogs. So we almost borderline want to just be like, you know, from the jump, let's just go ahead and disable content. I don't want to deal with social media trolls. So I don't, you said you've had a couple experiences already, and that doesn't want to make you disable
Oh,
the comment button.
oh, please! When you're talking about social media, especially my YouTube channel, my Pitbull advocacy playlist. Oh man, they come out of the woodwork, and they just, I mean, talking like just put, you know, all the anti-Pitbull stuff you could think of, right? But I could tell you this, and it just happened a couple of weeks ago. I did a video, and I don't even know, I forget, I don't know if it was YouTube, TikTok, or I don't even know where it was. It was literally me. It was like 60 seconds of a dog. And like most people were like, blah, blah, blah. And then oh, wow, there was the one. There's always the one, right? And said some stupid crap about it. And I was like, really? Like, I didn't offer any opinions. It was like this really superficial fluff video. It doesn't matter what the video or the content is, there's always going to be one, right? So, and as far as you being introverts and wanting content, you know, depending on how I've always been okay putting myself out there. That's just who I am. Ever since I was little, I had no problem with, you know, public, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Public appearances, I guess. So, and with content, I have no problem being in front of the camera. I have no problem talking about things openly, including my own personal life to a degree. Obviously, I don't talk about my family stuff, but, so when I share my stuff about dogs, it's usually a little bit of both. But when you're sharing, especially initially, if it's about the dogs, you know, you don't have to take a selfie with the dog, right? Yeah. You could just take a picture. Oh, what, buddy? You can just take video of the dogs. Oh, this is Bella. Bella's 3 years old. Bella came to us from an owner surrender. They got sick and couldn't care for her anymore. Talk about the dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Because so one of the things I wanted to incorporate into you know, our website and our merch and all this kind of stuff is the slogan, adopt, don't shop. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure, like, well, let's make sure it's not trademarked first, right? So I kind of looked it up. Well, he looked it up. And in the process of looking it up, there was like so much bashing over the slogan, adopt, don't shop. And it's just like, I just didn't even realize this. It was kind of a shock, you know, like, why would anyone be so opposed to adoption? And just some of the things that was out there is just ridiculous. And the fact that we're going to have to deal with, you know, you can't reason with certain people, and it's just not worth the time and the effort and the breath. So it's like, let's just disable the comments, you know?
Yeah, you know, you could disable the comments, right? And, you know, let's say your rescue has a Facebook or Instagram page, right? You know, you could certainly disable comments and, you know, do the video and say, hey, you know, and in your description, if you're interested in filling out an application for Bella, visit our website and the adoption application is there, right? You don't have to.
And that's kind of what I told Brian. I was like, and I pulled up your website and I showed him how you have the contact us page, you know, and I told him, I was like, you know, if anybody really has something they want to say to us, they can go to our website and go to contact us. And if someone just wants to spew hate, they probably won't, you know, go through the trouble. Yeah. So, you know, that we considered that as an option.
Yeah, it's going to happen, you know, and I hashtag adopt don't shop all the time. Right. Mm-hmm. And again, going back, and I reference my Pitbull advocacy playlist because that's the most, second to me mentioning training tools, my Pitbull playlist is the most controversial. And like, I have all about adoptions and stuff like that. And I have trolls saying, oh yeah, bull crap, you don't adopt, you probably sell Pitbull puppies. I'm like, and I was like, dude, first of all, spend a couple of minutes on my channel, Google me, ask just about anybody in the rescue community if I sell puppies. Right? Dude, just spend a minute and you don't sound like a fool. Like, so I like, I don't, and I always tell these people, look, you have a problem with me, let's hop on a Zoom. Let's talk through it. People like you is great because we have a common interest. So of course we want to get together, right? But people who hate, they don't want to confront the person they're hating.
What are they called? Keyboard warriors or
Keyboard
something?
war, yeah. When I grew up, it's like, yeah, meet you out back. You can't do that now because everybody's got guns, but
Yeah, really.
but yeah, there's gonna be haters. You're gonna come across haters inside the rescue community as well. You know, it could be just as polarizing as, say, politics, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the reasons, like, going back to rescue relationships, like, I'm friends with rescues where, like, the way they place dogs, I just, it's not for me. Maybe because I'm really strict. I've always kept Pity Rescue small. We're very careful with our placement. And I know a lot of rescues where, like, they'll go to adoption events and just send dogs home with people. I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
I can't reconcile how that's responsible, but they do a lot of good work. So I can't criticize their process if their rescue efforts are successful. Right. So, but, and, you know, some people get returns where people don't want the dogs and they send them back, you know, but so because I don't agree with their processes, I just try to make sure that I maintain good relationships with them. If a dog ever needs help from a rescue standpoint or a training standpoint, or, you know, I do a lot of Zooms with a lot of my rescue partners for helping them with training and stuff. So, you know, I try to maintain good relationships that way, but you're going to find the rescue community can be polarizing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
Good to know. That was pretty much our list of questions for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, if anything pops up, you could always email me. I gotta reply. I'll reply to the email. I'll give you my cell phone too. So, I didn't want to give it out. I didn't know who the hell Brenda from Japan was.
Sure, I know. Yeah, I know. I totally know how it seems. You know, I was in the military for 20 years. He's been in for almost 30 now. And, you know,
I can't believe you guys are in the military that long. You look so young.
I thank you.
I don't feel it.
Yeah, I don't feel it for sure.
I guess I actually do have one more question.
Sure.
So when you have somebody who is interested in a dog, do they come to your house? Do you let people come to your house, or you go meet them somewhere?
So from a behavior standpoint, I like to always meet on neutral territory. So if you're a foster-based network, you could certainly select a neutral territory, a park, pet store, things along those lines. If it's someone, like if it's a friend of a friend and you have a pretty solid dog and territory is not an issue, yeah, I mean, you know, meet us at the park, or, you know, if you have a park by your house or something, you could do that and walk back to your house, or you can go to the house. And then it's the flip side of that is the fosters, right? Because the foster is part of the scheduling process. So you have to find out their availability depending on the, you know, and when I do meet and greets, they have to submit an adoption application before the meet and greet, because too many people waste my time. I don't have time to do a meet and greet if you're not serious. So, and if you're not going to fill out an adoption application just to meet the dog, I mean, it takes 5 minutes. And for instance, people are like, oh my God, your adoption application is 5 pages. I'm like, it's 5 pages because it's spaced out in a PDF file. It takes 5 minutes. Like it's not you don't have to write a dissertation on animal behavior. Like, jot down some personal information. If you're not willing to tell me who you are to meet one of my dogs, you're not for me. That's just me, my personal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And do you request the adoption fee at the time that they submit the application as well? No. Or
I don't. I can tell you in the last several years, more and more rescues are charging like a $10 application fee, because we do spend time processing. I mean, just for instance, to download an application and take your first glance, that's 10 minutes of your time. Right. And what it does too is it kind of weeds out I don't want to say weeds out the crap, but it weeds out people who are not yet ready to actually adopt. They're kind of shopping or maybe browsing petfinder.com or something, kind of getting a feel for what they might like. So they're not ready to take that step yet. So some rescues have started. I still don't. But again, we're smaller than we've ever been now. I only have 3 dogs in my rescue. 2 of them are lifers. I'll never adopt them out because they can't go anywhere. They're kind of behavior type things. But yeah, some charge like a $10 adoption fee, 20, and that's where, like, if you did like a website or something, you could have a little PayPal link associated with the adoption application, right? Where you have like a $5 PayPal button or something where, so, it's, yeah, you could do something like that. But for the most part, I think if they're ready, they'll fill out an adoption application and set up a meet and greet. Yeah.
So speaking of like Pet Finder and other sites like adopt.com, do you utilize any of those to advertise?
Adopt a Pet and Pet Finder were the 2 I primarily used over the years. And Instagram is pretty big right now as far as marketing, because that's really what it is. You're marketing your animals, right?
Right.
So social media, I think Instagram and TikTok are probably, as far as just getting exposure for the rescue and the animals, maybe not necessarily actual leads. I think Adopt a Pet and Pet Finder are more appropriate for actual leads, because people are actively going to those locations to find an animal. So, yep.
So,
and your website, having a website and having an available animal list,
like all the bios and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. So before we moved to Japan, Brian was actually on a 1-year remote, and I was at home in California, and this cat showed up, and then it was raining outside, so I felt bad, and long story short, this cat made his way into our home, and there he was, right? But we already knew that we were going to be moving overseas. So a few months before we left, I put him up on, I'm pretty sure it was adoptapet.com. And I found a owner for him, and they had a pre-generated contract that we both signed. So if you go through a website like Adopt a Pet or Pet Finder, have you experienced any frustration from the adopter saying, "Oh, well, that's redundant. It's all this paperwork. I have to sign a contract with them and sign your contract." And
I've never had third-party involvement in my adoption process.
So how do you do it then if they find a dog through Adopt a Pet?
They got to fill my stuff out.
Yeah.
I don't know what their legal department says about their website. I don't have time to go through all of their processes. And maybe it's different, than when I used to use them a lot more. I mean, I only have 1 dog technically available for adoption right now. And he has to be, although he's up for adoption, he needs a little bit of a careful placement. But I don't like third-party involvement in any of my stuff. So yeah, I mean, it might be redundant. And is it Adopt a Pet? Are you sure? Because I thought they were okay. Because Adopt a Pet and Pet Finder, I'm pretty sure, are still referral websites where they're just kind of like a pass through for people to contact us. Kind of like if you go through, you ever go on Craigslist?
Yeah. And
you email someone, the email comes through Craigslist's back door. They don't have your email. Right. So that's kind of how the pass through works with Adopt a Pet and Pet Finder, where they'll see an animal, they'll click contact the rescue or inquire within. That gets sent to you with their preliminary, it's name, usually like name, phone number, email, basic, so like contact forms, nothing extensive. And then you would take it from there to facilitate your adoption process. So if there's another site that has like their own contract and their own processes and stuff, if it's solid and it's up to your standard, then I would say that makes your job a lot easier, because then you don't have to do all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, now I'm curious. I'll have to go back later through my emails and see
Yeah,
who
let me know what it was, because I'd be interested to see it. So
Yeah, because that, I wouldn't even really call it technically a foster, it's just like, oh, look at this cat,
yeah.
just trying to find him a home. I didn't want to put him back out on the street, when we
Right.
go out to Japan. So
Yep.
I just Googled something and it came up. So.
Yeah. How long ago was this?
We left in June of last year. Yeah. So
Little over a year.
yeah, a little over a year.
Okay. Yeah. When you find out, let me know.
Yeah.
I'd be always willing to learn.
Yeah, well, I think that's all the questions that we have for now. And yeah, we're just gathering all this information in OneNote right now and trying to establish a budget spreadsheet just to kind of get an idea of where, what we're looking at long term. And I'm sure all kinds of things are going to come up as we go along.
Yeah. And if I could help along the way, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. You guys all good? Anything else?
I think I'm good for now.
Good. Thank you so
All right.
much.
It was very nice to meet you guys. And again, thank you for your service. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah,
you.
if you need anything from Japan, let me know.
All right, guys, be well. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.